The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Monday, the 7th day. Yeah, it's the 7th day of October, 2024. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. I'm Jamel Hartman, and Maya Palacio will be with you in a bit to bring you the latest in her news break brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Well, you all know Monday is my favorite day of the week. Yeah. When you love what you do, you love a Monday. Well, that's if you work a traditional work week like Monday through Friday. But it's my favorite day of the week. But it's also my favorite because, well, my team, Noel Village, got a victory this weekend. Yeah, we got a victory. So coming into a Monday after your team gets a good victory is always a good thing. It's also my favorite day today because we had a by-election on Friday in Bermuda, and well, the result. Yeah, we're going to discuss that, but I think I should acknowledge you all first. So David Michael Wilson says, make it a meaningful Monday, TDH fam and crew. Good morning. Good morning to you as well, brother David. And greetings, everyone. Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome mental health advocate Daniel Cavanagh on. We're going to be discussing his groundbreaking research regarding mental health and adolescents. But don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Folks, you want to share this link right now, because we are about to have a conversation. You want to share the link. You want to make sure all your people, because trust me, you've probably been arguing and debating with them after the by-election anyway. I mean, I almost stayed up late well, I did. I couldn't make it through the fourth quarter, but it was a rain delay, the Cowboys-Steelers game. So, you know, when I'm alone and I don't get a lot of sleep, I tend to say things, right? So I may say some things this morning, all right? Yeah, we're gonna say some things this morning. Karen Simmons says, morning, Jamal, TDH crew. Got to meet Mia on Saturday evening at Mamma Mia. Awesome. I like that. Meet Mia at Mamma Mia. Suzanne Ingham says, awesome Monday, Jamal and Maya. Congratulations to your team. Boy, thank you. We appreciate you. Razul Levin says, morning, TDH family. Charles H. Jeffers II says, have they finished counting those 450 plus votes yet? And good morning, Traveling Trotty. She says, morning, TDH, as does Mark Arthur C. Phillips, morning, TDH fam, and morning, says Rosin Famous. Let's jump into today's conversation. Here's a question for you folks. What are your thoughts on the by-election result? And do you believe that a coalition government should be formed to oppose the PLP? All right, those are your questions this morning. Let me jump in. Normally, I would wait on you all, but I have some things to say. You know, in politics and in life, sometimes we have to humble ourselves. And I remember after the 2012 election in Bermuda, there were people, some go by the title of premier, who would walk around and say, don't blame me, I voted PLP. And, you know, I remember honorable former PLP leader and current FDM leader, Mark Bean, saying prior to the 2012 election that, you know, maybe the PLP need to lose to, you know, get back to its roots. And it can be said that through that loss, not much was learned by certain people. If anything, it heightened the arrogance because of how they lost. Let's fast forward to Friday night. I think everyone knew going into this was a PLP stronghold. People got, excited because Michael Scott only beat Ray Charlton by 8 or 12 votes in 2012. You have people, PR people who've never really excelled full time outside of politics, bragging that, this is their victory. And, PLP people celebrating with a fist in the air that this was a victory. And I just shared something on my WhatsApp status. And, for years I've told people, and I didn't need to go to graduate school and get a master's or go to college to understand this one thing. There are a lot of people and mathematicians that will continue to say this to the day they're on their deathbed, that numbers don't lie. People continue to say that in 2024. Numbers don't lie. But numbers have a story. Go beyond the numbers. Let me give you an example. This morning I posted on my WhatsApp status. Manchester United's goalkeeper, Andre Onana, is leading the Premier League in shutouts. That means clean sheets. That means he's had the most games where he hasn't let in a goal. And I said, you see how statistics can be so deceptive? Manchester United are off to their worst start in the Premier League history. Right? He's lost 2 games where he's conceded 3 goals. Why am I using that analogy for what happened Friday night? Because the numbers are deceptive. While the PLP is celebrating a win, which I'll touch on that a bit later, if we're honest, we know that this is no different from the US electoral vote, where you have the popular vote of 2016 Hillary Clinton versus the electoral college vote of the winner, Donald Trump. What do I mean by that? More people voted against the winner, as they would say, the Reverend Dr. Emily Gail Dill. More people voted against her than for her. That's not a victory. It's nothing to build on. But I'd say this much to the premier. If you're that confident, call that election. Now, I put a post online on Saturday and I said, I think it's time for the other parties to consider a coalition government. And because our conversations are private in the TDH group and I don't have permission to speak on what others say, I'll say this much. If all of us in this conversation right now are honest, the Bermuda Progressive Labour Party is a coalition government in itself. It's a coalition government, and the only way to defeat a coalition is to create a coalition of your own. What do I mean by that? How are they a coalition? We love Misha Fabla, young brother, very open mind and open heart. He's not like the rest of the members of the Bermuda Progressive Labour Party. He has totally different perspectives, but he believed that the PLP was the best party for him to join to make a difference in Bermuda. Walton Brown, the late Walton Brown, he's not like maybe Terry Lister, but they had a shared enemy. The common goal was against the other guys, right? So the PLP, regardless of what people say was built on this and this is what we stand for, it's a coalition government. It's a group of people who have one common enemy. They don't align on a majority of things if you really start asking questions. And the only way to defeat that coalition is to create a coalition of your own, right? Look at the LGBT and same-sex thing, and then the PLP. It's a coalition. It's a group of people who have one shared enemy, and that's the boogie white man or white supremacy or whatnot. All that to say, if the OBA, FDM, and independents seriously want the change that they seek, they're going to have to put ego aside and work together. Because as I predicted, they were going to cancel one another out and hand this to the candidate for the PLP. Now, that said, I continue to say, and I'm not going to say congratulations to Reverend Dr. Emily Gill Dill. I have nothing against her. I think that she's been a fantastic member of this TDH community, but I don't believe winning in politics is a sport. It's not a competition. It's not about congratulations. What I will say, I'll tell you when I'll say congratulations to any politician, when they pass that piece of legislation that improves the lives of the people, when they start bringing forth policies that we can stand up, applaud, and say, you know what? That helped save somebody's life. That's when I'll congratulate. This is not sports. This is not win and lose in sport. You got this. This is the people's lives. So no, with respect, this is not a congratulatory moment. The congratulatory moment comes when you hold your government accountable. The congratulatory moment comes when you pass an important piece of legislation and those policies that are in the best interest of the people that you serve. That's when I will happily say congratulations. But right now, there's work to be done. Let's go to the audience. What are your thoughts on the by-election results? And do you believe that a coalition government should be formed to oppose the PLP? All righty. David Michael Wilson says, reaction, much of the same, was expecting different, but then it was essentially the same old, same old. Was it though? Again, I think if we look at it as win and loss, it was the same old, right? If we look at it for how it should be, more people voted against the PLP than for them. That's what we should be looking at. This is, folks, any PR person running around or PLP like this was a victory, they know it wasn't. But if they really believe it's a victory, tell the premier drop the writ. The coalition government is not prepared. Tell him drop the writ. If he's if he truly believes this is a victory, tell him drop the writ. I dare him. Drop that writ. Because I'll tell you what, the PLP has quality candidates. I've said Misha Fabler is a quality candidate, right? Paul Wilmot, nothing, quality candidate. You all, I know you may have issues with Minister Owen Darrell, but he's connected to community, right? At the end of the day, you've got Minister Tanae Furbert. Many think a quality candidate. The PLP is not lost for quality candidates. What they're lost is quality people that are going to hold their government accountable, hold their leadership accountable. Renee Ming, Curtis Dickinson, these are quality candidates. Let's not act like that coalition. And that's another example of a coalition government. Renee Ming and Curtis Dickinson, they don't align with a Jason Hayward and a David Burt. So to defeat that coalition, you have to create a coalition, but you must leave ego at the door. Nicole Hassel says C36 is a PLP stronghold, but definitely no coalition government with the FDM and OBA. I don't think that it has to be a coalition with those two. Again, the PLP is as much a coalition as the FDM and OBA would be. There's no ideology government in Bermuda. That's what we have to come to grips with. There's no ideology. The PLP no longer has that ideology or identity at one's head. David Burt, Colonel Birch, these are perfect candidates for the United Bermuda Party as I was taught it to be. These are not labor people. They're not. But they're a coalition, a group of people with a shared enemy. Let's be honest. Think about it. The boogie white man. Sorry, I said that. Suzanne Ingham says, Jamal, you are hot today, hot fire. Keep it going. Keep going. Ain't no stopping you now. My apologies. I wasn't trying to be. David Michael Wilson says, wasn't trying to infer that it was a victory, rather that it was anticipated the PLP would do what they've always done. Got you, David. No problem. WKD Lama says, in principle, I'm a PLP supporter. I do believe a coalition should be formed. Ruling parties need to be held accountable. Again, we need to accept that the PLP is a coalition. I don't think we understand and accept that the PLP as a party right now is a coalition government. They are a coalition group. They are not a group of people who are all aligned. Again, we can look back. It's not just right now. As I mentioned, the late Walton Brown was a very, very progressive person versus maybe an older person like a Terry Lister who wasn't. They were in the government at the same time. You cannot tell me that Amisha Fubler aligns with a Curtis Dickinson based on where they stand on things. You can't tell me a Curtis Dickinson aligns with David Burt based on what we've seen publicly, or Jason Hayward aligns with a Renee Ming. They're different people. There was a time, someone reminded me this weekend when the PLP really had the best lawyers and business owners. Now they have more working class people, right? Which is not a bad thing. But the PLP, we have got to understand, are a coalition government. Someone shared the picture online of taken with Reverend Dr. Emily Gail Dill, and it had Jamal Simmons, Kim Swan, Wayne Furbert, right? And they said, former UBP members and two former UBP leaders. This is another example of ideologies out the window, folks. A shared enemy. These three gentlemen found an enemy in their former colleagues and white supremacy. So they joined the PLP. I'm not saying that's their exact reason, but my point is that's more proof that this is the PLP represents a coalition group of people. So why are we not thinking that a coalition can be formed with the others? It can, but ego needs to be left at the door. The OBA, in honest respect, like I say this with a lot of respect, you need to have an honest look in the mirror. And I'm no political expert, but I followed things for a little while. And you may have to understand that it's time to kind of rid yourselves of all things that were UBP, including those behind the scenes. The FDM, honestly, be humble in this time. Be humble in this time and accept that you may have to work with others that you don't share the same ideology with. And the independent movement, it's impressive. I think you can do some things. But like the PLP with so many different ideologies, I think you realize you'll be stronger together. At the end of the day, that was no mandate on Friday. And it was no victory for the PLP. It was a loss for Bermuda. I think it's in the U.S. Senate race between Warnock in Georgia some years ago. If it was, correct me if I'm wrong, audience, if the winner didn't get at least 50% or 51%, they had to have a runoff. That should have been the deal. To me, again, we should relook at that. But because the eventual winner, the person with the most votes, only got 35% of the votes, there probably should have been a runoff between her and the Honorable Mark Bean. Don't wait till it's not in your favor to say some things like that. Quick question before we bring Maya Palacio in. Do you believe that a coalition government should be formed to oppose the PLP? And what are your thoughts on the by-election result? What else, audience? What else? Do you think a coalition government should be formed to oppose the PLP? And what are your thoughts on the by-election results? Don't forget, we have a very important conversation. This is as important as the politics this morning. Daniel Cavanagh coming up after the news break. We're going to be talking about some groundbreaking research on mental health, folks. A groundbreaking mental health study on Bermuda's children. This is a conversation you don't want to miss. So make sure, with any questions or comments, make sure you're ready to have that conversation today. Let's bring Maya Palacio in for the Daily Hour news break. Like I said, you don't want to miss the following conversation with Daniel Cavanagh coming up after the break. Stick with us. Not laughing at you, Mike. Hey, MP, how you doing?
So dramatic. Good morning, everyone. I'm doing pretty good. This is a good conversation. Election times always gets me kind of hyped. I like going back in the data and seeing like, okay, so what was it before and what has changed and how much has it dropped in terms of people turning out and things like that. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting. And I think a lot of young people seem discouraged based on what I read on social media. And I don't know why. I think for me, I'm encouraged because I don't see this as a victory for one, but it is a loss for Bermuda. And I don't think it's a loss for Bermuda because the PLP candidate won. I think it's a loss for Bermuda because unless, and this is not just in politics, unless we leave egos at the door, none of us is going to be victorious. And that's just the reality. If we can understand that we're better together than apart and that, we need each other, then I think we'll be in a better space. But I think this comes down to us really understanding the need to support one another and work together. But I don't think that we should be angry or mad. I just think we need to be humble and understanding and listen to the very people that you need. But that's all I got.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. This is your Daily Hour news break brought to you by the great people at People's Pharmacy. Let's kick off the news break this morning with exactly the discussion that we've been talking about. Here's the story.
So I'm really, really excited about what the future holds for us. I know that there are individuals that did not vote for me, a high percentage, of course, with a 4-horse race. But what I did find were that the people in this constituency are ready to move forward. They want good representation, and I intend to be there for them.
All right.
162. That's the number of votes that the Reverend Dr. Emily Gale Dill won to win the C36 by-election seat in a constituency that had 1,200 voters registered. Only 456 came out to vote. This number is drastically low compared to the 2020 general election, which happened during a pandemic, which had 730 voters turn out. Statistically, by-elections do get lower voter turnouts than a general election. Noticeably, in this C36 by-election, more persons voted against the PLP than for, with the other 294 voters split between the other three candidates. Trailing behind the PLP was the Honorable Mark Bean of the FDM with 108 votes, and then the young 26-year-old independent candidate, Lieutenant Cyree Bean, who had 95 votes, followed by the One Bermuda Alliance's candidate Carl Neblett with 91 votes. The Honorable Mark Bean shared his thoughts on the night, specifically on the results of the FDM and his predictions for the PLP. This audio is courtesy of the World Gazette.
And so from a strategic perspective, you can expect, I wouldn't be surprised if the Premier, looking at this result, would seriously consider going to a January election right now. Any tactician would think, well, that's the opportune time, unless the opposition parties get ourselves together and work in unison.
Yeah. I don't think it's rocket science. I think that's the obvious. But again, David Burt was an opportunist in 2020. And I think constituency 10 humbled him. I think this one would humble a realist, and I think the Honorable Mark Bean is trying to bait him into something, right? Sorry if I'm giving away your secrets, sir, but I'm with the Honorable Mark Bean. If he's confident, if he thinks this is a real victory, he would drop a writ today If the Premier of Bermuda, I'm speaking to you, Mr. Brett, if you are that confident, if you truly think this is a victory, drop that writ up Government House today. Drop it. I dare you. Because the people spoke on Friday night, and they didn't speak in your favor, bruh.
Well, the independent candidate, Lieutenant Cyril Bean, went on to say that he'll continue to do what he's been doing for the past 8 years in the constituency. He'll still be there, have his program, be active and help out in any way he can. As he said before, that he's going to still be in this race, whether he's been in this whole political sphere for about 5 weeks. But Jarian Richardson, the OBA leader, said that they are kind of curious to go back to their own situation and camp and figure out what exactly happened with their votes and, the voter turnout and what they need to do to be better coming from the new general election. Also, if you were watching throughout the night, Bermuda Youth Connect did have a panel with a slew of young Bermudians giving their opinions, activists as well, people who are within the party. There's one thing mentioned by Shamari Tolbert, who's part of Progressive Minds, talking about how Bermudians kind of take voting for granted. Let's listen to this very short clip.
Just place a ballot in a box. That's a simple thing in a democracy. You have people in countries around the world who die to vote, and we take it for granted. We take it for granted. It's the simplest thing in a democracy. We can't take 10 minutes of. Some people in America, they have to wait 7 hours to vote.
I always disagree with that kind of chat. While I understand his point that people died for the right to vote, they didn't die for your right to vote for two idiots. If there's two, and this was the extreme example I've given for years. If there's two Klan members running, those are the only two candidates. That's not what your ancestors fought for. I think the conversation is beyond the vote. It's not about voting. It's about what else comes with your vote. I'm not saying we ignore the vote, but the laziness is thinking that it all happens. It's just about elections every few years. No, holding your government accountable is not just about showing up at polls and putting something in a box. So no, whenever someone says, "Oh, we take our vote for granted," no, I think we take life for granted, because an election happens and then we go off on our merry lives and complain for the next few years. No, hold your government accountable. It's more than the vote. Stop focusing on the vote, because if we held our government accountable, if we were marching and making noise and interrupting the flow the way they done the airport, the way they done pathways to status and more, then we wouldn't be in the position we're in. But alas, here we are.
Well, in other news, I know this was reported on Thursday of last week, but it was also reported again on Saturday. The Bermuda Police Service is appealing for the public's assistance in locating 16-year-old Raquel Sequeira. She is described as light complexion, 5 feet 1 inches tall, of slim build, weighing approximately 120 pounds, with dark blonde hair, and usually travels by bus or on foot. You see the picture right there. The team was last seen in the area of Hillview Lane, Warwick, around 11 p.m. Friday, October the 4th, wearing black and white pajamas. Efforts by the BPS officers to locate her are ongoing. Members of the public with information on the whereabouts of the 16-year-old Raquel Sequeira are encouraged to report it immediately by calling 295-0011 or calling 211 as well. Now, the island also will know that Ms. Sequeira has been missing a number of occasions, especially since the age of 15. So this is an ongoing situation.
I'll just say what I said before, and I've said numerous times on this show regarding that young lady. She is a child, folks.
Indeed. Well, meanwhile, this has been reported by the Gazette, but Cedar Ridge Academy is facing a staffing crisis in its new signature learning program, with no teachers available for the cosmetology and engineering courses. This has left regular teachers filling in, sparking frustration among staff. Teachers staged a sit-out on Wednesday afternoon, canceling more classes to discuss the issue. A vote of no confidence in Principal Kenneth Caesar is reportedly in the works, with staff citing his failure to recruit teachers for the second year in a row. The Ministry of Education and Cedar Ridge boards are addressing the concerns, but no immediate solutions have been provided. The Ministry of Education declined to comment, deferring to the Cedar Ridge board. But a reminder that the government plans to open the island's third signature senior school in September of 2025, less than a year away, at the San Secondary Middle School site, offering hospitality and tourism, as well as education services, signature learning programs.
You know, I know we've had the minister, the Honorable Diallo Rabane, on this show numerous times, but one of the questions I forgot to ask him is, as we're heading towards these signature schools, right? Are we sure that we have enough trained educators to teach these programs? It's all good saying that, you know, we have experts in the fields, but are they educators? Not everyone who's great at doing their job is going to be a great boss or a great teacher. Not every great footballer becomes a great football coach. So that's a question I have for the ministry. I wonder if they'd be interested in answering that.
Indeed. Well, closing up with our news this morning, we're going to go into a little bit of sports. But Jamal, do you remember having like little cards back in the day with Bermuda sports legends on them?
No.
You don't recall that?
No.
Okay, well, there's a fun card collection that some may remember, maybe Jamal does not, but where you had all Bermuda athletes present, past as well, on these little cards that were sort of like little feature cards that you get of NBA players and basketball players that you know you could pick up from globally. Well, those were kind of made in Bermuda, and they're kind of relaunching that and bringing it back since it happened in 1980. The Bermuda Police Service, in partnership with Hamilton Princess, has relaunched the BPS Bermuda Sports Superstars Cards series. Originally introduced in the 1980s and released approximately every 10 years, these sports cards featured notable local athletes from a variety of sports with inspiring personal quotes. The 2024 series features Bermuda sports legends as well as superstars. Some notable faces are Nikki Bascom and Janai Panchief, and of course, the Paralympian Jessica Lewis. Over the next 2 weeks, uniformed officers will attend school assemblies to promote the initiative and hand out cards to school-selected students. The aim of the initiative, which continues with its launch, is to encourage and engage Bermuda's young people through local sports heroes, while promoting positive interactions between Bermuda's youth and the police officers.
I like that, actually. I do.
I can't believe you haven't heard of that. I recall a couple of my friends actually being put on cards back in the day.
I do not remember that.
Pretty big thing. So yeah, so that's back out, and you could collect cards as well if you wish to. I believe at the Hamilton Police Station. Don't know if there's a cost to it, but they did say that's where they can be collected. All right. So looking at the weather today, it's looking like plenty of sunshine throughout the day, actually. Wind kind of light and easy toward the evening, and we got a high of 80 degrees. So it's looking like a good day to be outside, catch some sun.
All right. Thank you for that, Maya. Today I have, for days of the year, it's quite a few. World Day of Bullying Prevention. But I want to go with, in the U.S., it's National Day for National Forgiveness and Happiness Day. National Forgiveness and Happiness Day. And I want to ask the audience, are you holding on to something, or like, is there if there's something or someone you want to forgive, like who would it be? Maya, do you have someone you want to forgive?
What a deep question, Jamal, on this Monday morning.
I'll go first.
Go ahead, take it away.
Okay. So I forgive Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter kind of almost ruined my childhood. I was an Atlanta Braves fan growing up, and we won the World Series in 1995. And in 1996, the Braves were up 2-0 against the Yankees in the World Series, and Derek Jeter's Yankees came back, beat us 4-2. And my childhood in baseball was just ruined. I hadn't come back from it. So I literally just forgave Derek Jeter yesterday, folks.
Okay. Yesterday.
One more. I also forgive Sir Alex Ferguson, the former Manchester United manager, because during my childhood, all Manchester United did was win, and now all they do is lose. So I've forgiven him as well for making me think that life was all about winning. Go ahead. Next.
Okay. I don't know if there's anyone specific I can think of that I need to forgive right now.
Okay.
I feel like I'm somebody who's just like, noted, clocked, move on. And I try not to.
I held it against Derek Jeter and Sir Alex. All right. No worries. Maya, have a great day.
You too.
All right, Maya Palacio, folks. If you've appreciated the discussion so far this morning, make sure you give us a thumbs up, a love, share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. We've got Daniel Cavanagh coming on after this break. You don't want to miss this conversation. You want to be a part of it. They are having an event. Some groundbreaking research was uncovered during his, well, we're going to find out. I don't want to give away too much. We'll be back in 1 minute, 58 seconds. Stick with us.
Let's face it, life can be a little wild, but shopping doesn't have to be. I choose People's, so that whether it's a prescription that needs to be filled, a toy for my little terror, or a gift for a new addition to the family, We'll see about that. Everything's available in one convenient location. Some call it People's. I call it my one-stop shop in the city. People's, we're here for you.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
Unlock your business potential with BDC's General Microloan, offering up to $30,000 for Bermudian small and medium businesses, whether it's for inventory, working capital, or equipment. We provide 100% guarantee on approved loans. Simple application, low interest rates, and fast processing. Apply today and make your business dream come true.
Looking for the best care for your pets? Novazok Feed and Supply has everything you need, from top quality foods to toys and supplies. We've got it all. Join our frequent buyer program and earn rewards every time you shop. Plus, we've been awarded the Clever Customer Initiative program for helping you save more. And don't forget, we open an hour early on Saturdays so you can get a head start on your pet care. Visit us today or shop online for easy pickup or delivery. Your pets will thank you.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Big Show. I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical Wells, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. Do not forget to subscribe on our website, thedailyhour.com. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Without further ado, let's give a warm TDH welcome to our guest for the day. We've got Daniel Cavanagh coming on, and we're talking about mental health and some research that he did on Bermuda's young people. Let's give him a warm TDH welcome. Welcome. How are you, sir?
It's good to be here.
Thank you for coming. Our audience gets a bit excited. They're cheering for you like they know you, but they'll know a lot more about you after this. But thanks for joining us. All right, let's jump right into it. Tell the audience a bit about yourself, your background, and what it is that you do.
Sure. So I'm a high school teacher from Australia. And after I was teaching in Australia psychology for a few years, I moved to Russia. And when I was in Russia, I studied psychology. And I studied specifically something called mental health literacy, where I was exploring the mental health literacy of Russians and Australians. And after 3 very long winters in Russia, I decided to have a bit of a sea change. And so I moved to Bermuda. And when I was in Bermuda, this was in 2019, so just before the world ended, I started noticing that there was a lot of things going on with the students that I was teaching at Warwick Academy. So big shout out to my Warwick Academy students from the past. I noticed that there was one thing that they didn't really feel comfortable talking about mental health problems with an adult. And coming from Russia, I thought there would be less stigma in Bermuda. So I didn't really know anything about mental health or what that looks like in Bermuda. And so I basically wanted to explore that. So as soon as the pandemic hit and we saw this big increase in mental health problems, I went around to all the schools, all the mental health professionals on the island. And I said, look, I'm happy to make this my PhD research if I know that there's community support for this type of research to happen and understand what's going on.
I want to go back to your move. That's a big move from Russia to Bermuda. So, and you know, anyone that comes into our small community, we welcome them and we thank them for bringing such intellect. And I wanted to ask you, you know, you just started mentioning you conducted the first ever national mental health survey of adolescents. Speak more to us about why this was your focus.
Absolutely. So I approached this initially from a teaching perspective. I noticed the students in my room, particularly during the pandemic, during my homeroom, during my classes, that I wasn't able to support them in the way that I usually felt that I could, you know, trying to go between remote learning on and off, seeing the distress that caused on the students themselves and families. I wanted to use research, this extra experience that I had outside of teaching, to try and address this problem. So initially, the idea was simply to just do something at Warwick Academy. But then after speaking with so many other teachers, so many other schools, with mental health professionals on the island, I realized that because Bermuda is such a small population, we've never actually done a national mental health study on adolescents before. And yet it's clear that there is a problem in that the last 30 years around the world, we've seen an increase in mental health problems amongst young people. We didn't have any local data. So that was basically my what I was tasked with. Is I said to everyone, although the principals and the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education, I said I will happily do this research as long as I have support to help us understand what's going on, so that myself and a classroom teacher, I would have better guidance, but then also all the other teachers would also have better guidance. As a community, we'd have better guidance about what we actually should be doing to try and address this problem.
Yeah, you said something key that Bermuda didn't have this data, and I know on this show in particular, one of the things that our audience is always speaking about is that we don't do a good job of collecting important data. Simple things like how many Bermudians have left the island. So doing something like this with mental health is incredibly important, especially in young people. So thank you for taking this up. Can you explain why is it so important for us to address mental health at an early age?
Absolutely. So all the research shows from around the world that if you can address adolescence, if you can address mental health in adolescence, you're doing what's called early intervention, or even better, you're doing prevention work. And prevention work is always better than cure. It's better for the individual themselves because they spend less time being so distressed. It's better for the families of those individuals who have to basically support that child or that adolescent. And then it also means that in the future, they're going to be healthier as well. So if we wait until into their adolescents get into their 20s and 30s before we actually double down and try and provide the support they need, that means we're going to be trying to solve the problem, things like depressants or more psychologists, through service. And absolutely those things are important, particularly having the right levels of support. But it's a far more expensive way to try and address this issue. I think we're trying to build a better, healthier, happier community. Then we've got to look at our adolescents and we've got to provide them with the support that they need to grow and become their best selves, rather than waiting till there's a problem, letting it develop, and then trying to throw all these resources at fixing this problem that could have been solved with a little bit more foresight and attention towards prevention.
Indeed. Thank you for that. And audience, if you have any questions or comments for Mr. Cavanagh, please send them through. We'll get through as many questions and comments as possible. Speaking of that, the prevention measures, what resources are needed to ensure that young people have access to mental health care?
Yeah, so let's make an important distinction between prevention and service provision. So when I start to talk about prevention, I mean, we're trying to prevent these problems from happening at all. If we're talking about providing the right type of support for young people, so that could be school counselors, it could be psychologists and psychiatrists when they become more extreme, then those are the types of things that you think about. But we want to take, holistic approaches to improving this problem. So it's not just having a one-off workshop with some kids about mental health literacy, or it's not having a one-off session with staff, but it's, can we redesign the way that our schools look so that they are more welcoming or youth-friendly? Even the services that we provide to students, are they in buildings that are youth-friendly, or the services themselves, such as providing counseling? Maybe not every 12, 13, 14-year-old wants to go into a room and talk about their problems. So can we do more things like animal-assisted therapy or logotherapy or art therapy? There are different ways that we can provide support. And I think with this research, we're exploring more of those ways that we can provide students in meaningful ways.
Indeed. We've got some questions coming through, but you'll be discussing the groundbreaking results. The results of your groundbreaking research, sorry, but what surprised you most about what you learned during your research?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would have to say that, so what we had seen in the past 30 years is we'd seen this increase in mental health problems amongst youth. We then saw on top of that the pandemic doubled the reporting of these symptoms. And then when we actually came out with our results, we found that our averages in Bermuda were 5 to 6% higher than global averages. So we see this sort of decreasing, pandemic decrease again, and then Bermuda, I'm seeing higher than those averages as well. So for me, what that showed was that, okay, we definitely have something we need to talk about. This is something we should not be ignoring. This is not something that we can just deal with later, because as we've already explained, it gets worse or harder later. Like, it is much better that we address this problem head on right now and throw some resources at it, because otherwise it will get more problematic. Arguably the most surprising statistic after that was that not only do we have this 31% of adolescents reporting these symptoms of depression and anxiety, and 31% reporting these symptoms of depression, and 25% reporting these symptoms of anxiety, only 30% of those students reporting those symptoms actually had the intention to seek help. And when you compare that data to the drug survey data that happens every 4 years, those numbers look more realistic, like 10% in the last 12 months as an adolescent sought help. So we have these students that are distressed and they're not seeking help, the vast majority.
Wow. Let's go to Instagram. We've got a comment. Mia Chambre is asking, do you think cell phones are causing a mental health crisis among adolescents? Yeah, what was the cause? No, let me say, before you answer that, audience, I'm not asking particular questions today because there's going to be a lecture taking place where he's going to share a lot of the information of his study. And there's no point in discussing it all today if the intent is to get people to the study. So I'm not going to ask specific questions. So I am okay if he says, you know what, we'll speak about more of this at the lecture. And I'm okay with that, sir.
Wonderful. So I will reiterate that as well. If this is something that you're interested in, please do come to Bermuda College tomorrow. We have a great cross-section of the community coming to attend from 6 p.m. It is a public town hall event. It's open, it's free, so anyone can come. You don't have to RSVP, but we will be going into a lot of detail about all kinds of questions that you might have about mental health. So please do come along. But to answer that question about social media, we did have this question asked on Thursday night when we did our first town hall event at Summersfield Academy. Social media is, of course, one of the big things that everyone is talking about. So cell phones, and specifically the devices that we can use or the applications we can use on them, like social media, it is something that is causing people a lot of concern. And I definitely think we need better regulations around social media use in adolescents. What that looks like is something we have to agree on as a community to decide, because if one school or one parent says, okay, we're not going to allow students until the age of 14 to have cell phones or 14 to access social media. And these types of things, by the way, are happening in Australia. This is a big election, turning into a big election year in Australia. And they're talking about, things like banning cell phones or increasing the age limit on social media. So these are genuine things that we need to talk about. But to use that word cause, is the cell phone usage causing these problems? I haven't seen the data to say that is the outcome. The way that I think about cell phones, social media, is that they amplify existing problems in a community or society. So if we're in a totally healthy, happy, integrated, connected community, these cell phones would just be a part of life that would bring a little bit of extra benefit. They wouldn't divide us in the way that they can, or increase the symptoms of distress in young people by themselves. So I think better regulations around specifically any sort of self-harming or violent content on social media. I think we need better restrictions and resources there. But that's not because I think they're causing the distress symptoms. I just think that's good policy and that's good regulation. And I think more research is needed to really deeply answer that question.
Gotcha. All right, let's go to the audience. Teray Tall, she's asking, did you find a gender dynamic in your mental health findings, particularly as young men are becoming increasingly radicalized?
Yeah, I think we do a pretty good job actually of, well, I mean, I spend a lot of time with Dr. Ernest Peets at the moment because he comes on our town halls and he obviously talks a lot to adolescent mental health, specifically boys, or providing services to men. So let's just clarify our findings in the research, and then I'll say if we should go in one direction or another. We found that females were twice as more likely to experience these symptoms of depression, and again more likely to experience these symptoms of anxiety. So it was 40% were reporting these symptoms of depression of females, so 2 out of 5, and then only 1 out of 5 for males. That's not to say that males don't represent their distress in other ways, and they can become radicalized in other ways. But that's not what we saw in our data. Interestingly, what we tend to find is that males also seek help less for their problems. And we found this very strange, almost bizarre, very confusing result that we talked about a lot, which was that adolescent boys actually indicated they were more likely to seek help for a mental health problem, which is something that really surprised us and isn't what you usually see around the world. And so we actually went again back to the Department of Drug Control, and we looked at their data that specifically looked at, had someone actually sought help in the past 12 months for an emotional behavioral problem? And we found that, as expected, boys did actually seek help. So it's like there's a confidence that they feel in asking for help, but then probably to do with stigma, they don't actually seek help. So we do absolutely need to improve the ways that adolescent boys can receive care and can ask for help, so that we can avoid this radicalization.
Indeed. Maya Palacio is asking, when did the research take place? How many students/schools were involved?
Yeah, so the reason we call it a national study is because we had every eligible school participate. There were 15 schools at the time that could participate. So those were all the private schools, all the public schools. And we got them all to participate. We had 2,716 students sent to the survey, which accounts for about 76% of the population attending, adolescent population attending middle and high school. And I do want to thank the likes of Commissioner Richards, of David Kendall, who were incredibly supportive from both the Department of Education and the Department of Health in making sure that we could work with public schools to also be included, because initially we had started with the private schools, and then we were thrilled that we were able to get both all the private and public schools.
Indeed. We've got Rosalind Famous asking, how many subjects were in your study?
So just to reiterate, we had 2,716
2,700?
2,716 participants. Those students are sent to the survey. So say yes, I'm happy to provide my data.
Can I, and someone asked gendered, what's the racial breakdown in children? And did you notice any difference based on race? Did you notice any difference based on public versus private? Any data? Again, feel free to say you can tune into the, because I don't want to take away from the lecture.
No, that's fine. I can't speak to any differences between private and public. We didn't report those findings because this is an issue that affects everyone, and it's not significantly worse in private schools or public schools. So I can speak to the racial differences. We did explore those. So we found that those who identified as of a minority race, meaning they identified as mixed, Portuguese, Asian Pacific Islander, or other, they had the highest symptoms of anxiety and depression. And then with regards to those that identified as Black, they had high symptoms of depression, but not anxiety. So basically, white and Black adolescents had the same level of anxiety symptoms. Black adolescents had more than white adolescent symptoms of depression, and then minority had the overall most out of all those groups.
Interesting. Thank you so much for that. Just remind people, when does this event take place? You said it's free. It's tomorrow. Time, exact room if you know, but we need to get people out to this. And will it be streamed? That's the other important thing, because a lot of people may not have access.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is at Bermuda College. There are flyers that we will be sending around. So I'll if I can share them with you, Jamal, and you can send them out to your listeners, then that would be wonderful. It starts at 6 p.m. and it goes till 8 p.m. So we will make sure there is a signage so that people know where to go when they come in. The first 30 minutes is essentially us discussing everything about all the research that I'm talking about now, so the key findings, as well as our plan for discussing how we actually approach addressing the solutions, I should say. So as the research team, we've developed a proposed youth mental health plan. So these are the 11 recommendations that we think should be acted upon in the next 3 years, so that when we do the survey again in 2027, in October 2027, we can see that there's a measured result. And then the last 90 minutes is all question and answer. And basically every town hall that we've done so far, we have run out of time because we didn't have enough time to answer everybody's questions. But this will be the biggest event that we have done. This will be, if you want to understand what are the priorities as a community we should be moving towards with regards to youth mental health, what are the key questions we need to discuss? Do you have any questions yourself that you'd like to ask? This is absolutely the time to come. We have Dr. Sandy De Silva, the Executive Director of the Family Centre, Dr. Ernest Peets, founder and therapist at Mask, Dr. Peter Yates, the child psychiatrist, and Dr. Shawnee Basin, who's my research supervisor. Shout out to you, Shawnee, who will all be on the panel discussing as local experts, what are the things that we need to be doing. So I think it'll be a very well attended event. You've got literally all the experts from the community there to answer your questions. And I think the reason why we need people to attend is that some of these things that we're going to talk about are about cause us to be a little bit introspective. You know, the reality is that at the moment, at the age of 16, this is just as an example, at the age of 16, we allow our young people to drive on our roads. We allow them to choose their sexual partners. And yet, unless they're 18, they can't access any mental health services without their parents' permission. That's a question we've got to ask, is that how things should be in Bermuda? That's one of those legislative or policy changes that could be life-changing and life-saving. In the UK, it's 16 years of age. In Australia, it's even younger. So is this something that we want to talk about? And as a research team, we're going to be discussing this and saying, okay, what does the community think? And these are our thoughts.
Interesting. Real quickly, I'm not sure if you said or not, is it going to be streamed for those who may not be able to make it?
Sorry, yes. So the hope is that it will be streamed. I better check with my associate in the Bermuda College just to confirm that will be the case. So
let us know. We'll share on the show tomorrow if it is.
Great, wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We definitely value this conversation and the work that you've done. We speak about mental health so often. I believe World Mental Health Day is October 10th, if I'm not mistaken. So there's been a stigma around mental health in such a small community for so long. I've said it on this show before. I've said it publicly. Former Premier Dr. Ewart Brown was my mother's doctor. And when I was having challenges as a child, I had to go see child psychologists. I had, visits for anger management. And I always, as I became an adult, appreciated that my mother got me help at such a young age. When my fellow classmates would wonder why I was late to school, I wasn't ashamed to say where I went or why I went there. But I think it was shamed. It still is shamed in such a small community. And, I will always say to my mother, like, she saved someone she saw something wrong with. And to any parent out there that may be experiencing challenges, get the help. You don't have to do it alone. So thank you for this, Daniel Cavanagh. I hope that we get a good audience out tomorrow. And please know that this show, anything else that comes up, important data and information, please use us as a vehicle to express it to Bermuda. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great one. Bye-bye. All right, Daniel Cavanagh, folks, if you appreciated the conversation, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Make sure people have access to it. I value conversations like that. I truly do. I truly, truly do. I don't think we are over the hump when it comes to mental health in Bermuda. We're going to take a quick break. Stick with us. We'll be back in a minute, 25 seconds to wrap it up. Oh, and we've got a daily play for you. We've got a daily play for you. I want to see who's going to win it today. Let's see who tunes in.
Did you know 3 out of 4 people say that they have a good understanding of life insurance? But do they really? When asked how much the yearly cost would be for a 20-year, $250,000 level term life insurance policy for a healthy 30-year-old, 80% overestimated the cost by 5 times the amount. Ready for this? The true cost for that policy is about $220 a year. That's as little as 66 cents a day, or $20 a month. So let's put this into perspective. Compared to other monthly costs, isn't getting life insurance a no-brainer? If you can trim back on some of these expenses just a little bit, it will allow you to dedicate the savings toward an affordable life insurance policy. Contact one of our life insurance agents today to find the right policy for you.
Take a look at our workbook for construction workers and tradesmen. Durable, stretchable in all the right places, and plenty of options for tools and accessories. Paired with our wide range of tough and comfortable footwear, you can't go wrong. As you can see, Medical House really is a one-stop shop for everybody. We can't wait to see you.
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you appreciated today's conversation, give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Thanks so much to the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lenders, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we can do this with you on a daily basis. Again, audience, thanks so much. Don't forget, the public forum will be held in Hallett Hall in H100. It's next to the student hall. I think I know where that is at Bermuda College. Bermuda College, can you put some signs up, please, so the folks can find it? All right, we need some signs. All right, that's from Traveling Trotty at the college, and then we also have Athenian Lecture Hall. So now I'm confused. Well, it's at Bermuda College tomorrow, folks. Just make sure you're there. They'll have some people to direct you. All right. It's time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. It's a things you should know, folks. It's a things you should know. All right, here we go. It's a who said it. Sorry, not a things you should know. It's a who said it. Quote, everyone seems down for the cause until they remember that they have bills to pay. End quote. Who said it? Mark Arthur C. Phillips says Mike Tyson. It was not Mike Tyson. Suzanne, I made this question for you. She always says Jamel. So she's right. She's absolutely correct. I actually tweeted that many years ago in a different way. I said, everyone's a revolutionary until they remember that they have bills to pay. Yesterday on Twitter or X, whatever Elon calls it these days, I quoted, everyone is down for the cause until they remember they have bills to pay. That one was for Suzanne. See, I set you up. Suzanne. You let me put you down. You got some points today. Suzanne Ingham. There you go. Suzanne is in there. You get one. But what, Terea Maya? What? I was trying to help a sister out. But look, let's wrap it up real quickly. Look, as stated about the by-election on Friday, it was not a victory for the PLP. It was a message by the electorate, not necessarily the low turnout, but the way people voted. More people voted against the government than for. That should not be taken lightly. Now, does that mean that if David Burt, the Premier of Bermuda, were to call an election today, the PLP would lose? No, probably not. What it does mean, this is a process. This is a process. And this is what people have to understand. It's a process. It's a process that the One Bermuda Alliance got completely wrong after 2012 because they didn't win that election. The PLP lost it. I've said it for ages. Elections are not won, they're lost. And the One Bermuda Alliance thought that they can get in and govern like Colonel Birch. It backfired. And here we are today. It's a process. And for anyone to get close to the PLP, first step is coalition. Second step is contesting an election as a coalition. You may not win the next election, but you can work on getting those numbers down from 30. That's a great possibility. You have to be strategic. In reference to the conversation with Daniel Cavanagh, I think these conversations are extremely important. I think, I don't know if we shied away or shunned mental health, especially in the community, Black community and being a small community that Bermuda is. but we have to confront it head on. And I'm excited that someone has taken the initiative to do the research on young people. Preventative measures, they're important. And then understanding the support that's needed for young people and ensuring it's there. We should not ignore this. And I hope that Bermuda College has standing room only tomorrow. But I also hope that they're able to stream it. This is a conversation that our entire community needs to be a part of. If you have any further questions, give the college a call to ensure that you have the information needed to have access to this most important conversation. All right, folks, daily inspiration, I'll leave you with my quote. You know, everyone is down for the cause. Everyone seems down for the cause until they remember that they have bills to pay. And that think about that. You know, I understand that people have bills, mortgages, rent, children to raise and the like. But if the very people who risked their jobs and their freedom and their lives thought like that, we wouldn't even enjoy the opportunity to have those bills to pay. So just keep that in mind. All right. Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, Medicals, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we can do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we will be back to do this again with you tomorrow. I'm Jamel Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. We are out. Peace.